Welcome to the Canadian Expat, where we continue on our journey speaking with Canadians and Canadian organizations abroad so that we might gain a bit of inspiration, obtain some advice, and perhaps hear a few cautionary tales. Today, we go to Southern California. California as a state is more populous than the entire country of Canada. But according to the US Census data, within that population, there are over 132,000 Canadians living and working. Now, to be fair, that number might not reflect everyone. However, regardless of how you cut it, there are a lot of Canadians, Canadian businesses, and Canadians doing business in the Golden State. With over 500 Canadian companies located just in Southern California, bilateral trade just between Canada and the state of California is valued at over $44 billion. Hundreds of thousands of people on both sides of the border rely on this trade for their livelihood. Supporting these incredible statistics are two individuals, Robert KELLE and Stephen Armstrong, whom in 2015 recognized the need for an organization to help promote this cross-border trade. It was these two that founded the Maple Business Council in Southern California. I will always say this with a great deal of conviction. Our most valuable export is our people. Robert and Stephen, thank you for what you do, and welcome to the Canadian Expat.
Thank you, Alan. We appreciate the opportunity to come together and share the story of Maple Business Council and the work that Stephen and I have been doing to promote Canadians and Canadian interests in Southern California, as well as promoting Southern California to Canada.
I'd love to hear a little bit of a backstory about you two, where you came from in Canada and what led you to California in the first place.
Stephen?
I'm an Ontario native, and after graduating from Ivy Business School, I started my career in consumer packaged goods marketing, which brought me down to the US, Minnesota actually initially. And it took me about 12 years before I found my way to our family goal of living in Southern California. And I spent a number of years here with healthcare IT startups, leading their marketing before opening my own consulting practice, and had the pleasure of raising my family in Southern California since 2000, and the opportunity to reconnect with Canada through Maple has been a real pleasure and a privilege.
And I'm also from Ontario, native of Ontario, went to Western and moved here in 1992 with my Canadian wife, also a Western graduate. I've been here in Southern California since 92. My career started in the commercial real estate sector. But my passion for helping companies from a process and systems perspective led me to working with Ernst & Young and a number of industries, everything from wireless telecommunications to automotive and healthcare, and then back into leading IT organizations until I started my own consulting practice in 2009, which was about the time that we kicked off Canadians in Orange County, which is an expat group focused on sort of the social aspects of reconnecting with our heritage. And today I work for Oracle. I work in product strategy in the pharmaceutical sector.
And also involved with, of course, the Maple Council. I'm curious, why create the council? What was the impetus behind the creation of this organization?
Well, as I mentioned, back in 2009, we started Canadians in Orange County, which brought us together socially, but we always had an interest to create something that was more business oriented. And so when the Canadian Consulate in Los Angeles reached out in 2014, they said, hey, what you've created is great. Would you do something focused on business networking? And Stephen and I saw that as the perfect opportunity to take what we had started on the social side of things, which already had a number of executives partaking. We decided to go ahead and launch Maple Business Council to really hone in on building a business networking community here in Southern California to promote trade, investment, and entrepreneurship between SoCal and Canada.
And as you were describing, Alan, there's just such a vibrant trade relationship between Southern California and Canada that it really deserves to have a sticky executive level business community, fostering more conversations between experts and people interested in doing business in Canada and Southern California from both sides of the border. When you step back and look at this relationship, Canada is the second largest customer of California after Mexico. California is the second largest export state after Michigan for Canada. A huge volume of trade going across the border every day. Large volumes of Canadians coming down to Los Angeles for travel, vacations, and tourism. A tremendous amount of Canadian foreign direct investment coming into Southern California. And then you have this welcome mat of a very large Canadian diaspora, complemented by the work of the Canadian government in LA and San Diego and throughout the whole territory. It really felt like this was a great opportunity to bring a business voice to complement all of this and to help do more. And it's easier when you have a great relationship where things are working well already and try to lift and do more of that than sometimes looking at a virgin market and trying to start something from scratch.
Sure. Now, it's been 4 years now, or almost 4 years since beginning the organization, correct?
We just celebrated our 4th anniversary in June.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So I'm going to ask you to toot your own horns a little bit. What sort of achievements have you made?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're here after 4 years with a growing brand and a wonderful, vibrant community. I think stick-withedness is a big part of being, in the economic development world. And this is a commitment that's underlined and with deep roots, passion that Robert and I and our team members, staff, and board all share. And so being here after 4 years and having so many of our members renew year after year and welcoming new brands on both sides of the border really just affirms that, this is a good idea. And this is one that's relevant and timely, and that we're providing value to businesses across sectors. So we look at, being here and celebrating our 4th anniversary with you today, Alan, as a real achievement in itself, and the opportunity now to be that complementary business voice to other established economic development organizations that represent this region and all over Canada.
So I think it's the, it's the brands that we've associated with, and it's also the partners, starting with the Canadian Consulate in Los Angeles, who we continue to have a great relationship with, but also, partners like World Trade Centers, cities, counties. We've got great relationships at the federal, state, provincial level as well. And so, we count all those relationships as important to us building a community. And the fact that we're still here 4 years later, it's kind of interesting, but it took at least 3 years before we landed some of the folks we talked to on the first day almost. And so it's that stick with itness that Stephen really spoke to, that I think allows major brands to finally look at us and say, hey, you know what, these guys are really building something great. We want to be part of it.
Right. Now, on the council website, I see it's mentioned that this is the first chapter of the Maple Council. Am I to believe that there will be future councils, chapters growing around the United States, perhaps more in California?
We mentioned that it's the first. We had a slight sort of rebranding effort, so to speak, and that we went from being maplesocal.com as a domain to maplecouncil.org to highlight that we're a nonprofit one, but also to remove the geographic focus on Southern California. We're growing chapters. We intend to grow chapters across Canada and beyond Southern California as well. So that's certainly in the cards. What we've recognized it really takes is other executives, leaders who are willing to take on this effort and who have as deep a passion about building this relationship as we do. And as we find those people in other markets, we certainly want to extend the brand and help support them. We get asked all the time, is there a Maple in my city? Fill in the blank. And, we'd love to see that happen over time. But it takes that passion.
Yeah. And we think we've written a playbook, Alan, here that is very transferable to other markets in terms of the infrastructure needed to support a membership-based organization, the communications, the events, the delegations, the contacts, All this is work that we've invested now that can certainly be leveraged in another market. And I think the need is there as well, wherever there is a Canadian presence and an existing trading relationship, the opportunity for cross-border investment and entrepreneurship going both directions across the border, that a business community can really play a vital role. And we're really blessed to have a number of people that are representing Maple in different markets already across Canada, the United States. We have people in Vancouver and Montreal and San Diego who all donate a portion of their time to be able to be that local networking conduit for our community. And we're very honored and grateful for their time. And it's planting the seeds there that there can be, maybe a more fuller chapter in some of these markets in the coming years.
And it's that network, right, that I think is really valuable, in that you can go to Montreal and you can connect with Maple. You can go to Vancouver and connect with Maple. You can go into various cities in Southern California and connect with Maple. And so, we think if you fast forward, you ought to be able to go into a number of cities on either side of the border or elsewhere and connect with Maple as, part of your overall network.
Fantastic. I look forward to the opportunity to visiting a chapter in Victoria.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Now, part of our goal is to inspire Canadians that are either living abroad or planning on moving abroad to get involved in organizations and also trade in general. What would you say would be kind of the top 3 tips that you would tell somebody that perhaps found a product or a service that they'd love to bring to the California market from Canada?
Sure. I think one of the things that I hear over and over from people who have tried is, and those who have been successful, the ones that are successful make a real time investment in this market. You can't just drop in and think you're going to sign a deal after a couple of meetings. You really have to build a relationship here, build a network, and sort of get ingrained in the community and spend time here, right? So you need to, if you're the CEO or head of marketing or sales, you need to come in and spend time in this community and really build deep relationships.
Yeah, it's difficult to parachute in and try to establish something from scratch without having some continuity of presence. And that's part of the value that we provide, is that we are a platform that helps share our members' brands to a community of people that have an interest in understanding opportunities across the border and for networking locally as well. I'd also say do your homework, get to really know this landscape. And it's hard even here for people to do that, because this is a large territory, if you want to call it that we're covering from San Diego up to LA, large in population, large in geographic size, and each market has its own distinct sector strengths. And that's difficult for someone coming from outside the country to really understand. So spending time here, not trying to do it alone either, is another tip. Leverage your Canadian cards, whether they be cultural or social, business-wise. The Canadian brand is highly regarded here, as it is around the world, and people want to help fellow Canadians and people that are from Canada just because of the respect they have for our nation and what we do in the world. And so those are all advantages that you can leverage when you try to really understand the market and establish your presence here.
Yeah, we've heard that a great deal, regardless of which organization we're speaking with around the world. That seems to be an ongoing theme, right?
Yeah.
The Canadian brand is highly respected.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So if there's a Canadian company or Canadian individual in Southern California that's watching this, wasn't aware of you, of course, we'll put your information in the information below. But what are the opportunities for them to join the council?
Well, come out, and we have quarterly networking receptions in San Diego, Los Angeles, and Orange County. It's a great way to meet Robert, myself, and the rest of our team and fellow members and guests. And we encourage everyone to come out and experience it to see if it's a good fit for their networking and their business goals before they make a decision on membership. And we love traveling back to Canada. We are up to Canada for receptions or delegations 2 or 3 times a year. And those are also opportunities for businesses to be able to get to know our mission and discover the opportunities to work together.
Perfect. Well, with that, thank you very much for participating. And for all those watching, thank you for watching the video. If you've enjoyed it, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And if you would like to participate in one of these conversations, please comment below. We'd love to speak with you. Until next time.